Year 4 with Juan. He grew tired of my dullness, my predictability. He became infatuated with a bold, modern girl. But to his friends, he shrugged it off, saying, "It's just a fling. Of course, I'll still marry an obedient girl like Alicia." The wedding was just around the corner, and everyone around me urged me to see the bigger picture. Then Josue, the wildest one in our circle, stepped forward and asked me, "Obedient girl, do you dare to rebel, just once?" 3 days later, at the wedding, Juan saw the hickey on my neck. He was so furious he could barely hold the bouquet. I smiled calmly and said, "It's just a fling. Why are you so upset?" I leaned in and whispered, "Though I must admit after trying him, I realized you really are boring. Not nearly as fun as he is." Chapter 1. I had never seen this side of Juan before. He had always been the gentleman, the polished young man from a prestigious family. But now, with his shirt undone, he lounged lazily on the sofa while a pink-haired girl boldly straddled his lap and kissed him passionately. His eyes were hazy with alcohol, a gleam of drunken lust flashing in them. But just before their lips met, he turned his head, letting her kiss land on his cheek instead. "Juan, you're being so wild. Aren't you afraid Alicia will find out?" "It's just a fling," Juan said casually. "Even if she does, so what? But you're getting married. The invitations have already been sent. She's an obedient girl. She'll probably just cry a little," he said, lighting a cigarette and laughing carelessly. "Of course I'll marry someone like her, someone obedient. But the mistress outside the house? She needs to be charming, full of tricks to keep it exciting." Laughter erupted through the chaotic room. Juan grinned and pinched the girl's soft cheek. "Put it on, show them what you've got." She giggled shyly. "But I only want to wear it for you." He smirked, though the smile didn't reach his eyes. "Come on, don't ruin the mood." Pouting, she went off to change. I had waited outside for a while, and finally someone picked up the phone before anyone noticed I was there. "Is it the sister-in-law?" they asked. "Juan's drunk. He was just talking about you." I took a step back. "I'll stay out here. Don't bother him while he's watching the dance." The person on the other end sounded uneasy, pausing for a moment. Maybe it was the first time I'd ever shown emotion, and it caught them off guard. After all, I was known in our circle as the obedient girl. Everyone knew Juan had been acting out lately, but without exception, they all told me to endure it. What man isn't a little wild? At least Juan is still respectful to you. The wedding is close. Think about the big picture, the reputation of both families. The reputation of both families, what a joke. Why was I, the victim, the one who had to worry about that? You all have your fun. I'm leaving. Sister-in-law, Juan's just playing around, don't follow me. I held back my tears and turned to leave. But just as I reached the elevator, someone stopped me. I wiped my tears away, frowned, and looked up to see him. Josue, the infamous playboy of our group. Dressed in a black coat and matching cargo pants, a cigarette between his lips, he looked at me with bold, reckless eyes. In a place filled with fine clothes and expensive perfume, he stood out sharply. I'd heard more than enough bad rumors about him. Instinctively, I took a step back, keeping my distance. Obedient girl, Josue removed the cigarette from his mouth and raised an eyebrow at me. "Do you dare to rebel just once?" Chapter 2. I wore a pale blue square-neck dress. My long straight hair and light makeup made me the picture-perfect lady all the elders adored. But behind closed doors, I was the one people mocked, the one easy to manipulate. Josue's eyes were sharp, and his jawline carried a fresh cut, making his already striking face appear even fiercer. At first, I ignored him, but he sneered and looked me over. "Thought so. You don't have the guts. Boring." I turned slightly, hesitating, then faced him again. "Who says I don't dare?" Josue tossed his car keys into the air. "Coming with me?" I clutched my purse, straightened my back, and walked directly into the elevator, without looking away. He chuckled and followed me in. The moment the elevator doors closed, he wrapped one arm around my waist, pulling me tightly against his chest. His scent was completely different from Juan's. Intense. Raw. His cologne, laced with cigarette smoke and something heady and masculine, overwhelmed my senses. I felt a bit suffocated and let out a small cough. Josue looked down at me. "Delicate, aren't you?" It's the cigarette smell, I said, wrinkling my nose. It's too strong. I tried to push him away, but his grip only tightened. Sorry for hurting you. I'll shower later. Even a shower won't help. The smell lingers. I turned my head, grimacing and pulling away. Josue laughed softly, then suddenly leaned in and kissed me. I'll quit today. How's that, babe? My face burned with heat. I got engaged to Juan when I was 19. It's been 4 full years. Josue is the first man who has ever kissed me besides him. When we reached the underground parking lot, the heat simmering in my body still hadn't faded. Josue drove a Hummer. We left the city and headed up a winding mountain road, the speed picking up as the car roared up toward the summit. My heart was pounding. I felt uneasy, but also strangely exhilarated. It was a sensation I couldn't quite put into words. Josue got out and opened the door for me. Can you walk? My legs were a bit weak, but I could still stand, so I brushed off his hand and moved forward on my own. Josue didn't insist. At the mountaintop, there was a lookout point where the whole city stretched out beneath us, glowing with the lights of thousands of homes. Above, the sky was an endless sea of stars. The weight in my chest seemed to lift in that moment. Josue stood beside me and pulled out a cigarette pack. Then, as if thinking of something, he crumpled it and tossed it in the trash. Watching that, I couldn't help but smile. What's so funny? His tone was a little rough. He turned to me, took hold of my chin, and said, Alicia, if you smile at me like that, I won't be able to resist taking you right here. Chapter 3. I had heard all the rumors about Jaja, that he had countless girlfriends back in high school, that he was unstable, a notorious player. Yet with that face, rugged and striking, he drew women in like moths to a flame. Many girls had cried just for the chance to be with him. Deep down, I was nervous. But I tried to stay calm. Josue, you don't have any diseases, right?
What?
You want me to go to the hospital right now for a full checkup? He grabbed my chin again, leaning close enough that his warm breath brushed against my ear. Scared now? Don't you think it's a little late for that? His words sent a genuine chill through me. I pushed him away. Josue, I want to go home. Fine, he said, leaning back lazily against the railing, his tall, firm frame silhouetted under the starlight. His voice was casual, but laced with mischief. You want to go home? Walk down by yourself, then. I bit back my anger, shot him a glare, and turned to walk away. A serial killer escaped a few days ago, he said. They say he's hiding somewhere on this mountain. He usually targets pretty girls. He does things to them, then cuts them up. Josue, my steps came to a sudden halt. A cold mountain wind blew past, and fear surged through me. Couldn't help it. I turned and ran back to him. He burst into laughter, but quickly pulled me into a tight embrace. My fear hadn't even settled before he held the back of my neck and kissed me deeply. I resisted, trying to push him away. I even bit his lip, hard enough to draw blood. Alicia, he wiped the blood with his fingers, and his expression turned cold. My eyes were red, filled with hesitation and dread, and I murmured, I want to go home, but Josue suddenly smiled. Go home? And be someone's puppet again. Alicia, how much more of this can you take? I fell silent. Juan was the golden boy, the refined, promising young man everyone praised. But behind closed doors, his true nature was something else entirely. Everyone told me to endure it. But no one ever told him to stop hurting the woman he was about to marry. Just because he came from a more powerful family and mine wanted to climb higher, was I supposed to keep thinking about the big picture? Just because the invitations were sent and the wedding was 3 days away, did no one care whether a puppet was sad or not? A child without a mother has already lost his father too. No one wants him. No one protects him. And so he doesn't even have the strength to cry. Alicia, Josue used his rough fingers to wipe my tears away. As he leaned down to kiss me again, I heard his voice, soft and low. Don't cry. I'll take care of you from now on. Josue took me to his place. He lived alone in a luxurious penthouse in the heart of the city. He had bought 2 units on the top floor, and combined them it was huge, but also painfully empty. Once inside, I noticed there were no signs of any woman having ever stayed there. He turned off my phone and told me to take a shower. Afterward, we drank wine together on the terrace. I rarely drink, so I had no idea what was happening to me. The drunk version of me was like someone else entirely. I unfastened his bathrobe and mumbled, "I need to check to see if you're clean." My hands wouldn't stop moving. At first, Josue tried to hold me back. But when I locked eyes with him, he slowly lowered his hand. Then he leaned back, half reclining, spreading his long legs, letting me do whatever I wanted. Josue's body was breathtaking. His skin was a sun-kissed bronze, his muscles defined and graceful. Even relaxed, his abs were clearly visible. I reached out and touched him, trailing my fingers slowly down. "Alicia," Josue caught my hand. His voice was low and hoarse. "Think careful, I go any lower, and there's no turning back." Chapter 4. Are you scared now? Or are you feeling guilty? I straddled his thigh, ran my hand across his abs, and looked down at him. "Afraid I'll find out you're not exactly clean?" Josue suddenly laughed. But this time it was different. It was real, genuine, joyful laughter from deep within. My chest trembled at the sound. "He really is devastatingly handsome. Go ahead, Alicia. Check all you want." He let go of my hand. It was hard to tear my eyes away from his face. Slowly, I began to lower my gaze, exploring every inch of his torso. Josue looks kind of cute." Josue suddenly coughed. The next second, he picked me up and carried me in his arms, laying me down on the soft mattress. Our bodies fell onto the bed together. He intertwined our fingers and kissed merrily, dominantly. "Alicia, you'll soon find out just how dangerous I can be." Meanwhile, Juan returned to the marital home at 3 in the morning. The bold young woman who had been dancing ballet earlier had changed outfits and gone back to performing, the mood in the private room reaching its peak. But by then, his energy had already started to fade. It was almost 2 o'clock. Alicia hadn't called or messaged him, not even once. She was probably already slipping into the trap of marriage, losing control in her last grasp at freedom. Alicia had likely heard some of the rumors. But she was soft-hearted, and her family didn't treat her well. She'd always relied on him. His friends used to joke that whenever she got upset, all he had to do was sweet-talk her, and everything would be fine again. He knew he had gone too far this time, but he didn't feel any real urgency. The lack of messages or calls didn't mean anything. Alicia was probably still awake, waiting for him to come home. Suddenly, the girl dancing in front of him didn't seem that appealing anymore. Alicia had learned ballet too, back when she was little. But she had never looked like that when she danced. How to describe it? Pure. Yes, pure. That was the kind of girl you marry. That was the kind of woman who deserved to be a wife. When the driver dropped him off at the marital home, the entire house was dark. Juan frowned. As he stepped out of the car, an odd sense of unease swept over him. He entered the building, crossed the living room, and went upstairs to the master bedroom. The door was slightly ajar. He pushed it open and turned on the light. The warm glow filled the room. The king-sized bed was neatly made, the sheets perfectly tucked, but Alicia wasn't there. The alcohol in Juan's system vanished instantly. He rushed to the bathroom, then searched the entire house room by room. But she was gone. Finally, he stopped and dialed Alicia's number. But the call went straight to voicemail. Her phone was off. An unexplained irritation surged inside him. He tossed the phone aside, loosened his tie, and slumped onto the sofa. Alicia Chan must really be angry. She probably went back to her family's house. That had to be it. The Chans would surely urge her to return immediately. They were more eager for the wedding than he was. He was tired. His head throbbed. If Alicia were here, she'd have made him soup, massaged his temples, filled the bathtub for him. But she wasn't here tonight. Still, it didn't matter. Tomorrow morning, her family would bring her back. And this time he did feel a little guilty. So he would properly calm her down. In front of her family, he would give her the respect she deserved. He knew Alicia was easy to console. When I woke up, it was already almost noon. The house was quiet. I had no idea where Josue had gone. I stayed in bed for a while before slowly getting up. After freshening up, I stepped onto the terrace for some air. From there, I saw Josue down in the garden, shirtless, washing a heavy motorcycle. The sun was shining, and the water spraying from the hose caught the light, forming a small rainbow. But the most captivating sight was Josue himself, his sun-kissed, muscular body, with smooth, defined lines. He wore a simple pair of jeans that hung a little loose at the waist, revealing his toned abdomen. There was a wild, masculine energy about him, untamed and alive. I couldn't help but recall the chaos of last night. The way he was in bed, the things he did to me matched perfectly with his appearance and his untamed nature. I had lost count of how many times I thought I wouldn't survive. And Josue kept asking me, "Alicia, is it good? Do you like it?" My cheeks were burning just thinking about it. Josue turned off the hose and casually looked up toward the upper floor. Our eyes met, and I blushed even harder. I quickly tried to turn away, but Josue called out my name. "Alicia." He leaned against the motorcycle, brushing back his wet hair with his hands. His face, clean and clear under the sunlight, looked effortlessly stunning. He smiled, carefree yet with a hint of smugness. That cocky grin made me grit my teeth. But deep down, all I felt was a strange mix of sweetness and bitterness. I stared at him for a long moment, then turned and walked back into the room. Chapter 5. When I changed and went downstairs, Josue was already waiting for me at the dining table. "Hungry? Let's eat first." He stood up naturally and guided me to sit beside him. The food was perfectly tailored to my taste, which surprised me. Still, I didn't have much of an appetite. In 3 days, I was supposed to marry Juan. The Chan family had already accepted the Fu family's betrothal gift. Over the past few years, the Chan family's business had leaned heavily on the Fu family. In short, the Chans needed this marriage, not the fuss. And certainly not me. Yet no one in my family seemed to care about that. "Don't like it?" Josue noticed my dull expression and put down his chopsticks too. "I'll take you out to eat something better." "Josue," I poked at the rice in my bowl, worried. "The wedding is in 3 days. Are you going back?" Josue looked at me without any expression. "Alicia, do you still like him that much?" I let out a bitter laugh. "Like him? Maybe I once did. Back when we both still put our hearts into the relationship. How could I not have felt something real at the time? But when one person grows tired and bored, how could the other not feel it too?" "Josue," I looked up at him, my eyes a little red, but I smiled anyway. "Can I just enjoy these 3 days happily?" Josue seemed like he wanted to smile or maybe light a cigarette. But he couldn't find his pack. He leaned back in the chair and closed his eyes for a moment. After a few seconds, he finally spoke, voice low. "And what happens after these 3 days, Alicia? Are you going to return and marry him? Just pretend all this was some dream? Aren't you happy, Josue?" I asked softly, though even I could hear how uncertain my voice sounded. Josue chuckled this time. "Alicia, of course I'm happy. Then isn't this the best of both worlds?" I said, trying to sound casual. "The best of both worlds," Josue murmured, eyes locked on my face. But then his smile slowly returned to that same bittersweet one. "Alicia, I'll do whatever you want. I just want you to be happy." That night, Josue took me on a ride across the city on his motorcycle. We didn't care where we were going, we just rode. With the helmet on, I didn't feel scared at all. For the first time in my life, I felt free. I even lifted my arms and screamed into the wind, not caring how I looked. That Alicia, once trapped under rules and expectations, finally felt like she had broken free from her cocoon. What I didn't know was that while I was enjoying my last bit of freedom, Juan's fiancé, who claimed he felt nothing for me anymore, was in a rage over my disappearance, searching all day and night. The last time he tried calling me, my phone was still off. Juan had left the marital home in the middle of the night and gone to meet up with some friends. The ballet dancer from earlier, her name was Carolina. Juan had left the party early, uninterested, and Carolina assumed he wouldn't look for her again. But to her surprise, he showed up at her dorm later that same night. When she stepped outside, a dark thought crossed her mind. Juan was generous, yes, but he was also about to get married. Carolina could tell he wasn't really serious about her. Eventually, she knew he'd toss her aside. But she also knew men like Juan didn't come around often. She wanted to make the most of this opportunity, secure her future, maybe even walk away with a fortune. If she didn't get pregnant, she'd still demand a large sum of money. That night, luck seemed to be on her side. She was in her fertile window. As she walked out, Carolina took out a condom she had prepped in her bag and deliberately poked holes in it. Juan, still just a student back then, had no reason to suspect anything. She wasn't about to let this chance slip away. After a few drinks, Juan still seemed detached. Juan, did your wife get mad at you last night? One of the men asked. Juan looked at the guy lounging on the couch. Mad at me? She wouldn't dare. Oh, I thought she might have gotten upset after seeing you with someone else. Cried her eyes out. Probably fought with you when you got home. Didn't expect her to take it so calmly. She actually endured that. Suddenly, Juan set his glass down. Alicia, she came last night? Yeah, I stepped out to take a call and ran into her. We talked a bit. Did she cry?
Yeah, she did.
Her eyes were really red. Just like that, Juan's foul mood vanished. So she had been jealous. That's why she hid and turned off her phone. He felt better now, and even started looking at Carolina beside him with a little more warmth. That night, she was wearing some perfume he didn't know which, but it stirred something in him, something hard to resist. Juan pulled her close, and Carolina sat on his lap. Mister, who are you going to leave me tonight? He pinched her cheek. This'll be the last time. Let's enjoy it. Why the last time? She asked. Because I'm getting married the day after tomorrow. So what? Can't you still go out and have fun after getting married? Juan smirked, lifted Carolina up, and held her in his arms. After I get married, I won't be having fun anymore. He looked around the room and added, You all hear that? His tone was playful, even a little cocky, but laced with a strange seriousness. After I get married, there'll only be one woman for me wife. Chapter 6. While Juan and Carolina were busy fooling around, Josue had taken me to a local street race. Each racer brought along a girlfriend, and naturally, Josue brought me. Josue, what's gotten into you this time? Yeah, Jaju, never bring women to this kind of thing. Josue raised his helmet like he was about to hit the guy. The man yelped and ducked behind me. Sis, help me? I was stunned and instinctively tried to explain. But Josue looked at me, then pulled me into his arms. Ignore them. She's sensitive. Josue, who would have thought you could be such a protective guy? That's because my girl's beautiful. All right, the race is about to start. Josue stopped paying attention to the others. He took the helmet and gently placed it on my head with his own hands. The car's going to go fast. If you get scared, just tell me. I'm not scared. Josue looked at me and smiled, completely relaxed. Then if you do get scared, just hold on to me. I'm not scared. I didn't even scream last time, remember? Josue didn't say anything else, he just smiled. But when the race started, I realized what we'd done before was just child's play. As the speed ramped up and the car began to drift through sharp turns, I couldn't help but scream and cling tightly to Josue's waist. Alicia, are you scared? He shouted over the roaring wind. I was terrified, but I shut my eyes and screamed back. I'm not scared. Josue's laughter was wild and free, echoing into the night air. Then hold me tighter, Alicia. I did, and the car surged even faster, reaching its limit. Of course, Josue won first place again. At the finish line, he stopped the car and scooped me into his arms. My legs were so weak I could barely stand. He held me close and gently removed my helmet. The blinding lights faded, and above us stretched the quiet, distant canopy of stars. Josue lowered his head and kissed me deeply. Alicia, let's leave together. Do you dare? His eyes burned with intensity, and the scar on his chin gave him a wild, untamed look. I could feel his gaze so fierce it almost felt like love. No one could resist it, not even the most obedient version of me. For one fleeting moment I wanted to say yes. To leave everything behind. To run away and live a carefree life on the road. Anything would be better than being a puppet. But reality was cruel. A single thread of clarity still held me back. I didn't answer. Instead, I stood on tiptoe and kissed him softly. Josue, I love you. The stars above the mountain still shimmered faintly, but at the foot of the hill, darkness had already swallowed everything. Silence ruled the night. Only the occasional sound from a car parked beneath a tree broke the stillness. In the back seat, Josue lay with his clothes in disarray, one arm gently cradling my head. But soon, exhaustion took over. My body, soaked and trembling, collapsed against his chest. Josue chuckled, brushing aside the damp hair from my forehead. Tired already? I didn't have the strength to speak, but my mind was still swirling. That little thing, so innocent and soft, how was it becoming more terrifying every day? I felt like I was burning up with fever. Sweating, shaking. Josue turned and gently laid me beneath him, his tall, powerful body pressing down on me. It was in that moment I realized something. I was drawn to strength. I liked the way he dominated me. I liked how Josue was fierce with everyone else but gentle with me. In truth, we barely knew each other. We lived in the same city, but our paths rarely crossed. We had only truly spent time together over the last 2 days. Yet somehow he made me feel completely safe. Despite his notorious reputation, despite that flirtatious face, he still gave me a strange sense of peace. I closed my eyes and let instinct take over. That night, Josue and I gave ourselves to each other completely. I don't remember when it ended. All I know is that when it was over, there was peace. Wrapped in Josue's coat, I sat on his lap. We held each other quietly, kissing softly, waiting for dawn, waiting for everything to return to the beginning. Chapter 7. I spent my final day at Josue's home. When I woke, it was already 2 in the afternoon. I took a long, relaxing bath. And just as I was reaching for the hairdryer, Josue walked in silently. He took it from my hand without a word. As he dried my hair, I suddenly felt tears fall. He turned off the dryer, held my face gently in both hands, and leaned in to kiss the tear on my cheek. In the mirror, I noticed a faded red string wrapped around his left wrist. It was tied in a diamond note. It looked familiar. How long have you had that red string? I asked. Around 4 years, he replied. Who gave it to you? Josue smiled. I'm superstitious. Got it at a temple. I wear it as a charm. I think I had one too, but I lost it somewhere. Alicia. Josue lowered his head, his forehead gently touching mine. Are you going back? Yes. I couldn't meet his eyes. I just reached out and touched the scar on his chin. How did you get this? Normal for street races, he said casually. Be careful next time. I tried to smile. Your face is too handsome to ruin with a scar. Just my face. Your body too. And in bed you're really good. So many tricks. I mean, with that much experience, you had to be good at something. Alicia, what? I've never been with anyone. Josue's brows furrowed. He didn't like talking about it. You probably won't believe me, but I've never cared much for women. Why not? Too loud, he said, looking down, wiping another tear from my lash. Alicia, tomorrow, I'll wait for you outside the church. Don't worry, I won't pressure you. If you don't show up, I promise I'll disappear from your life forever. Josue, I wanted to tell him not to do this. People already looked down on him. If he went through with this, his name would be completely ruined. And I was still engaged to Juan. Everyone knew I was marrying him. Alicia, we only live once. I hope you live it freely with complete freedom. When Juan heard I had returned to the marital home, he rushed back right away. He still smelled of alcohol, and his face showed signs of exhaustion. He took off his jacket and tossed it into the hallway. Alicia. He looked at me with an expression I hadn't seen in a long time, an expression of tenderness. My love. He stepped forward, bent down slightly, and took my hand. Tomorrow is our wedding. After that we can live happily, right? I looked at the man in front of me. I couldn't deny that I had once loved him. There was a time when I pinned my hopes on him. In a family like the Chans, I had never felt truly cherished or important. I always dreamed that my future husband would love me deeply. I had pictured a fulfilling marriage with Juan, growing old together, loving each other till the very end. But unfortunately, dreams are just dreams. I gently pulled my hand away. Go take a shower and get some rest. And you? I want to rest too. We need to wake up early tomorrow. I stood up and walked toward the door. The Chan family's car is already on its way. According to tradition, I'm supposed to stay at my parents' home tonight. Then I'll go with you, Juan said, acting like the most considerate, devoted fiancé. He walked me out and stood beside the car like the perfect gentleman, watching as I left. I sat in the car and looked back at him standing there in the dark, watching the vehicle pull away. I wasn't sure how necessary this dramatic, passionate love really was. Suddenly, my phone buzzed several times, snapping me out of my thoughts. I checked Ida new friend request. I accepted it and immediately received a flood of photos and videos. Miss Chan, I didn't want to disturb you at first, the message read. But Juan is too cruel, too heartless. I was only interested in his money, but now I've lost my job, my reputation, everything. Miss Chan, Juan told me he doesn't love you anymore. He's marrying you only because you're a virgin, his first and only woman. Believe me, even after marrying you, he won't change. Because, Miss Chan, you can't do the things I did. I read the message, then opened the photos. I looked for just a moment before shutting off the screen, my hands trembling. The images were disgusting. Chaotic. In Juan's eyes, just because he paid, he thought he could do whatever he wanted with those women. Was I supposed to be grateful that, even though he didn't love me, he at least respected me as his wife enough not to treat me that way? Chapter 08. On the morning of the wedding, I woke up early. I had already made my final decision. After getting ready, I retrieved some documents from the safe in my room. Then I knocked on my father and stepmother's bedroom door. My biological mother had come from a well-educated family, but she died shortly after giving birth to me. She left behind a small number of shares in the Chan family business and a few pieces of jewelry gifted by my grandfather when she got married. I took the white jade bracelets she loved most and always wore. The rest I left to them. The Chan family has raised me for 23 years. These assets are my way of repaying them. My father and stepmother looked shocked. They had been coveting the inheritance my mother left me for years, and I had always refused. I believed those things were the last traces of my mother and I had to protect them. But now I understood. My mother died of depression. The Chan family was not a good place to live. Being a Chan daughter was not a blessing. But people always say, you've enjoyed the wealth and protection of the Chan family for over 20 years, should you give something back? Well, now I had. I gave them everything. I owed them nothing. The Fu family's dowry was not in my hands. The business benefits the Fu family brought were all enjoyed by my father, my stepmother, and my younger half-brother. I owed them nothing either. As for all the messy consequences that would follow, let the Fu and Chan families sort it out among themselves. My father, still unaware of my plans, praised me with satisfaction. You're getting married now. Finally, you understand what it means to be grateful to your parents. My stepmother also smiled warmly. You'll be Mrs.
Fuson.
Things have changed. Your mother must be at peace now, watching from the heavens. I smiled faintly and said nothing more. Remember, once you're married, you can't be willful anymore. That time you turned off your phone and disappeared, that was too childish. Fortunately, Juan didn't blame you. If he'd gotten angry, the wedding might have been cancelled. Then you'd be crying alone right now. Now that you're marrying into the Fu family, make sure to win Juan's heart.
Support the Chan family.
If we prosper, so will your life. My father looked at me with a kind of pride I'd never seen before. Perhaps in his eyes, I was his most successful transaction. I had never truly been his daughter. Just a badia named a pawn. Someone who could feel pain, sadness, but didn't matter. 30 minutes before the ceremony began, I removed the shawl from my shoulders. The wedding dress was stunning, elegantly designed, exposing my shoulders and the entire back. The makeup artist smiled and asked, Miss Chan, would you like me to cover these marks? She pointed to the hickey on my neck. You and Mr. Fu must be getting along really well. But I shook my head. No, it's fine. Leave it. The makeup artist adjusted my veil and the folds of my dress, then handed me the bouquet. I took the flowers and stood up. The white jade bracelets my mother loved so dearly clinked softly around my wrist as I rose. The heavy fog in my chest seemed to lift, as if an invisible hand had gently pushed it away. A sliver of sunlight pierced through the haze. In that moment, I knew everything was about to change. As I stepped out, my phone buzzed quietly. It was a message from Josue. Alicia, I'm waiting for you. I didn't reply. I simply put the phone away and left the dressing room. In the distance, I saw Juan. He saw me too. I saw the astonishment and joy flash across his eyes. Dressed in his groom's suit, he looked every bit the perfect man, elegant, refined, like a jade statue. I paused. For a moment, it felt like I was back in the year we got engaged. It had been the anniversary of my mother's death. Juan had accompanied me to the temple. I had tied a red string in a diamond knot and asked the monk to bless it. I offered it at the altar for 3 days and 3 nights, joyfully preparing to gift it to Juan. But he didn't believe in such things and didn't seem to value the gesture. He looked at it once, then never wore it. I was disappointed, of course. But I told myself not every man cares for sentimental things. I shouldn't force my beliefs onto others. That red string eventually ended up hanging from the temple's wish tree, along with my prayer plaque. I still remember the wish I wrote that day. I hope to find someone who truly loves me and will stay with me to the very end. My vision suddenly blurred, and Juan's face became hazy too. I had truly loved him once. My feelings back then were real. And for that, I had no regrets. But now I had finally let go. This good girl role everyone forced on me, whoever wants it can take it. I never went through a rebellious phase. But the moment I decided to truly rebel, I realized how terrifying that could be. Chapter 09. When Juan finally reached me, holding the groom's bouquet, his smile froze awkwardly. He saw the hickeys on my neck, messy marks of different depths. He remembered it had been a long time since we'd been together. His face twisted in disbelief, and he nearly dropped the flowers. Alicia, what is this? What did you do? Who are you with these past 3 days? His voice was hoarse, rage burning in his eyes. I couldn't help but chuckle softly. I was just trying something new. Why are you so angry? Or is it that only you are allowed to do that, but I'm not? Trying something new? Juan repeated, his voice low and disbelieving. Then, suddenly, he threw the bouquet to the ground in fury. The entire crowd fell silent, stunned by the sudden outburst. The elders from the Chan and Fu families turned to look at us. I raised an eyebrow and smiled calmly.
Yes.
Haven't you tried it before? Didn't you find it addictive? Alicia, I took a step back and stared at him. I tried it too. And after trying it, I realized you're pretty boring. You don't have his spark. So I bent down, placed the bouquet on the floor, and looked up at him with a wide, radiant smile. When I'm not marrying you. The moment those words left my mouth, there was a buzzing in my urses, if I'd gone deaf. But then, the world came rushing back. I felt the last layer of cocoon around me completely dissolve. My body and soul were finally free. I turned and began walking away. The expressions on the Chan family members' faces were unforgettable. My father and stepmother stood frozen in shock. It wasn't until I was far from the ceremony that I heard my father's furious scream. But I didn't look back. I lifted the heavy wedding dress in both hands as I ran, already having swapped my heels for sneakers. I ran across the perfectly manicured green lawn, past under archways covered in roses. When I reached the grand entrance, I stopped and looked back. The noisy crowd now seemed like a ridiculous, distant world. Stepping through that door, I knew I was never going back. Josue wasn't driving. He stood next to a heavy motorcycle, dressed in a sharp black suit. It was the first time I'd seen him in formal wear. Immediately, a phrase popped into my head. A beast in a suit. There had to be something wrong with me because in that moment I thought, I want to be with him like this, dressed just like that. His hair was neatly styled, and he looked unusually refined, like he was the groom today. I froze in place, staring at him under the sunlight. He saw me too. The moment he laid eyes on me, his body tensed. The man so used to rebellion now looked nervous, his lips pressed into a thin line. His eyes held joy, disbelief, and above all a tenderness full of concern. Alicia. He called my name softly. With long strides, he reached my side in seconds. My wedding dress billowed behind me like a wave, rippling through the air. Trees swayed gently, casting dappled shadows on the bright blue sky above. Josue, I feel dizzy, let me go. I clung to him, nearly screaming, my voice trembling with desperation. But Josue listened. He stopped only to kiss me hard right after. Alicia, he murmured, did you know I didn't sleep a single minute last night? Now I finally understand what it means for a day to feel endless. Josue held me so tightly, as if I might fly away if he let go. From now on, I won't let you out of my sight for even a minute. Didn't you say you wanted me to live freely? You can be free, I'll just follow you. You'll follow me forever?
Forever, he said.
You won't get tired? You won't get bored? You won't want to try something new someday? I waited jealously for 26 years, Alicia. Now that I finally have this chance, I'd be stupid enough to ruin it. So that night, was it really your first time? Asked in surprise, hadn't seemed inexperienced at all. Were you shocked by how skilled I was? He teased, a little smug but also clearly embarrassed. I couldn't help but laugh. Josue lowered his head and kissed me. You have no idea how hard it was for me to hold back just to make sure I didn't disappoint you, to make you feel good. Then tonight, I'll reward you properly, I whispered, lifting my head to kiss him. But you have to keep wearing that suit. When Juan came running out, he saw me sitting on the back of Josue's motorcycle. Enraged, he shouted after us. But I simply flipped him off with a calm middle finger. The motorcycle roared to life, and we sped away, neither of us caring whether Juan was chasing behind us. Josue drove us through the buzzing city, and I had no idea how long we rode until he finally stopped. It was a small, custom boutique, elegant and unique. Josue led me inside. A beautiful young woman at the counter brought out a handcrafted wedding dress, simple, graceful, with ballet-inspired details. I fell in love with it instantly. Josue gently urged me to try it on. When I returned in the dress, Laura, the boutique stylist, had styled my hair into a perfect bun. As I stepped out again, Josue's gaze on me made Laura burst into a smile. Do you like it? I asked, lifting the hem and spinning lightly, doing a small ballet pose as I smiled at him. Josue stared, completely entranced, and suddenly, tears welled up in his eyes. Josue, what's wrong? I asked, startled. After a moment, he composed himself. Alicia, do you know how long it's been since you last danced? I stood there frozen. It was true, since I got engaged to Juan, my father and stepmother had forbidden me to dance. They said that as someone soon to marry into the Fu family, dancing was no longer appropriate for someone of my status. And with just a few cold words, they shattered my dreams. At 19, I was so used to obeying that I didn't even rebel. When I asked them if I could continue, they dismissed it coldly. So I cried alone in secret, quietly accepting my fate. Even during the sweetest part of my relationship with Juan, I once asked him if I could still dance. What did he say? Wouldn't you rather be a privileged wife and live in peace? Ballet is so tough. Look at your feet. Don't you think they look ugly? I loved him deeply back then. All I wanted was to please him. Every girl wants to be perfect in the eyes of the one she loves, and I was no different. After that, I never dared let Juan see my feet again. Alicia, you don't know what I just saw, Josue whispered. You were glowing. Truly radiant. A tear fell from my eye, and Josue pulled me into a tight hug. I want you to be that Alicia again, the dazzling, brilliant Alicia. Like the first time I saw you dance. So full of unstoppable light. You saw me dance? I've seen every single one of your performances, he said softly. Chapter 10. Josue and I went to so many places. We didn't have a wedding ceremony, but we lived as if we were on a honeymoon. Laura made me so many beautiful dresses, and the day we left, Josue brought them all with us. It seemed he especially loved seeing me look beautiful in every place we visited. I don't know when he started planning all of this or how long he'd been preparing. And maybe I never will. What did he feel, deep down, as he quietly prepared everything for me? I don't dare to imagine. But one thing I do know, I didn't miss it. When we finally got ready to return to the capital, autumn was already in full bloom. It had been 2 months since the wedding day, but the storm hadn't passed. The Fu family, in a rage, turned their wrath on the Chan family, pressuring them in business and deals. And Juan's response completely stunned me. He agreed to a single media interview, and in it he said, "My wife Alicia was misguided. That's why she did such foolish things. She's pure and simple, the most well-behaved girl in the entire capital." We all know what kind of reputation young Mr. Josue has. I don't know what tricks he used to deceive my wife and run off with her. I won't let this matter go, but as for my wife Alicia, I'll still give her one last chance. If she returns, the doors of the Fu family will always be open to her. Juan Fu, all no grudges. His emotional words were so moving it felt like something out of a movie. After that, Josue's already fragile reputation took an even harder hit. Everyone believed that Iance the obedient, perfect daughter had been seduced and misled by Josue. And since Juan was still willing to forgive me, they believed I should kneel down and thank him. If I were the old Alicia, I probably would have panicked. I would have feared for my reputation. Feared I'd never wash away the shame. Feared the gossip, the curses, the humiliation I might bring to my late mother. But now I no longer cared about those false labels. The day I returned to the capital, I went to see Juan. "Do you remember Carolina?" I asked him directly. Juan's expression changed immediately. How could he not remember? That woman had tried to trap him with a fake pregnancy. Honestly, it wasn't the first time one had dealt with tactics like that. So he saw through it quickly. Carolina didn't just fail, Juan used his influence to get her expelled from school. It had almost been forgotten by now. Juan looked stunned, confused as to how I knew about it. "If you don't want your family or the media to find out about your affair with Carolina," I said calmly, "then stop letting the press drag Josue's name through the mud." I pulled a photo from my bag and placed it in front of Juan. "I doubt you'd want these going public, right?" Anger and disbelief flashed across his face. "So all of this is for Josue? Alicia, do you really care about him that much?" "I'm just telling the truth," I said. Josue didn't deceive me. He didn't manipulate me. Every decision I made was because I wanted to make it. "And your reputation, Alicia?" "I don't care." "And your mother? Don't you care what she would think?" I stood up and gave a faint smile. My mother probably wouldn't have wanted me to be a puppet dressed up as a good girl either. "But Alicia, can you really trust a man like Josue? Do you know how unstable his past is? More unstable than yours?" I asked quietly. "You have a perfect reputation, Juan. But what's the truth behind that image?" "You're naive, Alicia. All men are the same. They all get tired eventually, so I should just close my eyes and swallow it all forever? What if one day Josue treats you the same way?"
"He won't," I said.
"And how can you be so sure?" "Because I know he won't. Maybe it's because of the red string he's worn on his wrist for 4 years. Maybe it's because he keeps a journal in his study with my name written on every page. Maybe because he never misses any of my performances and photographs every single one. Maybe it's the way he looks at me with a gaze that's always sincere and full of devotion. Maybe it's because he gave me the courage to chase my dreams. A good partner makes you shine brighter. One only ever wanted me to be a perfect, obedient wife. To sit in a grand house like a beautiful ornament. But Josue made me feel like a happy, confident girl free to chase whatever I loved. All I had to do was run forward, and he would always be right behind me. On the day we officially registered our marriage, Carolina, who had been quiet for a long time, struck again. Maybe it was because her life had grown difficult. Or maybe she still couldn't let go of her hatred for Juan. She tried to extort a large sum of money using those photos. Then she disappeared. Overnight, the photos spread all over the capital. Juan was abandoned by his family, replaced by someone else. Once the full timeline was revealed, both Josue's and my reputations slowly began to recover. But Josue and we didn't care. We discussed it, acknowledged it, and let it go. On the day we picked up our marriage certificate, I took Josue to the temple. There, I lit an eternal lamp in memory of my mother. We knelt before the altar together and prayed silently for a long time. After a while, Josue asked me to step outside first. He said he had something to say to my mother alone. I didn't know what he wanted to say, but I let him be. While he spoke, I wandered back to the temple's wish tree. There, I found the wooden plaque I had hung with my own hands all those years ago. The red string Josue had once taken was now gone, but the plaque remained. What surprised me was that a new plaque had been placed beside mine, tied with a red thread. The handwriting was firm. I recognized it immediately. It was Josue's. He had written just 2 lines. "Alicia, can I see you sooner than you think?" I clutched the plaque tightly, and suddenly tears began to fall. People were coming and going all around me. Voices echoed in the courtyard. Then I heard someone call my name. I turned and saw Josue. He was standing at the top of the steps, dressed in black and white, dazzling under the sunlight. When our eyes met, His gaze softened into a warm smile. Through tears, I smiled too and waved. Josue, I see you.